Hi, everyone. This is Jeff Clark of the Pater Prospector here in beautiful Vancouver at the Metals Investor Forum. I'm joined here by the CEO of Western Exploration, Darcy Marud. Darcy, thanks for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Jeff. Always a pleasure.
That's great. So we always start with the people, and Darcy, you've got quite a successful background. It's very impressive, all the success you've had in your career. And of course, we like to see that when we invest in a new company. Tell us about your background, especially the successes you've had.
Well, I'm happy to do that, Jeff. So success is always a team game, right? It's not an individual. So I've been very fortunate in my career to work with some very good mentors and some mind finders. And I think it all started in my career here in Vancouver with Homestake Mining Company, working with Robert Boyd and Jeffrey Abbott, who were very successful in their careers. And they gave me the opportunity to go to Chile in the early 90s. So I took that opportunity. Homestake got sold to Barrick. Long story short, I ended up at FMC Gold, which became Meridian Gold, and we were at the Peñon deposit when that was discovered. So working with that team, they'd been very successful. They discovered about 5 mines in the succession of that company.
Wow.
So I worked with those people, and that rubs off on you on how to execute. And so from there, we've been very successful in discovering other things, but it all started with good mentors and a good environment to be taught in.
I believe you came back with a wife from Chile too, didn't you?
I did. That's not what I went there for, but I'm actually celebrating our 30th anniversary this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good for you. So you have some projects in Nevada, and I want to talk about those, but there's a lot of excitement building around Western exploration right now. At PDAC at the recent conference, I had a hard time trying to meet up with you because your booth was so crowded. So there is some excitement building. Tell us about the projects, first of all, that you have there in Nevada.
Glad to do that. So we have the Aura project, which is just north of Elko. But we're fortunate that on that one project, we have 3 different mineral deposits. We kind of lumped 2 of them together. Wood Gulch and Gravel Creek, we think, are going to connect at one point to be one common deposit. And then the other one is called Dobie George. Dobie George is a Carlin-type deposit, very similar to Jarrett Canyon and Big Springs, which are located just to the south of us, about 25 kilometers. And then Gravel Creek and Wood Gulch have similarities to Midas and Sleeper, which are within 50 kilometers. So 2 different styles of mineralization, which always gives you good optionality, but they're both very high grade. You know, Dobie George, for an oxide gold deposit, we've got grades up to 7 grams per ton over 26 meters. And at Gravel Creek, we're getting up to 250 grams per ton gold and kilos of silver. So I think that's kind of the nature of the attraction to our company right now, is when you see grades like that, it's very unique.
And Dobie George would be an open pit mine, right?
It would be open pit heap leach. We just finished the metallurgy on that in January, and it shows about 72 to 75% recovery with a standard open pit heap leach.
Now, one thing that attracted me to the stock was when I looked at that map of the current resource you have at Gravel Creek and the other land around that already has some evidence that there's some good geological anomalies there. There's probably more gold there. And that could potentially double that resource. Tell us about that and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so that's right. You know, we've got the Gravel Creek resource, and immediately to the east of it, we've got historic drill holes with some very high grades, you know, up to 250 gram per ton gold.
That's amazing.
So, and that's never been followed up. So we've got an area that is immediately adjacent to resource with drill hits already in it. And in one area that we drilled last year, we were able to drill out offensive drill holes with 50 to 70 meter spacing. And that gave us the confidence that there's continuity of those high grades. And that's very important, you know, the context of having high grades, but that continuity. So we've now committed to doing a drill program to follow that up this year in that area where we've got already some high grades, but too far, you know, too wide spacing to go into resource. But we're going to fill that in and hopefully connect all the dots up and get a resource that's going to be substantially more than what we currently have.
So how much are you planning to drill this this year? And then when would the updated resource come?
We'll drill a minimum of 4,000 meters. I think we'll be able to do a little bit more than that. But certainly we want to drill it at a spacing where we don't go too far from what we already know, because you don't want to get lost in space. So we'll do step out holes on that, about 80 meter spacing. That'll be able to go into an inferred resource in time. So what we're going to try to do is 80 meter spacing and look to do an inferred resource update in the first quarter of next year.
That's great. And then over at Dobie George, there's going to be a PEA that's going to get underway there pretty soon. Is that
That's
right?
correct. Yeah, that was the reason for the metallurgy. Is we had historic metallurgy from past operators, which included Homestake, Atlas, and Independence. But that work was done in the 90s, and we didn't have the samples or the ownership of that data. So we went back, drilled some new holes in there, identified some areas of really good high grade, used those samples to drive new metallurgical results, which confirmed what was known in the past. But now we have ownership of that, and that will drive this PEA going forward.
That's great. And then you have a pretty tight share structure as I look at it. So tell us about your share structure of the company and who some of the investors are.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So we do. I mean, we've only got about 43.5 million shares outstanding. And a lot of that is due to the fact the company is relatively new in the capital markets. We listed in January of 2022 with about 30 million shares outstanding. So we've done a couple financings that have brought, needed capital into the company with a little bit of dilution, but we've managed that to not be too onerous to the company and to our shareholders. And some of our major shareholders have been with the company for a long time. Golconda is our largest shareholder. It's a private equity group out of New York. There's about 70 high net worth individuals and family offices, and they've been in the company since 2013 when it was private. And it was their funding from 2013 to 2022, which was about 25 to 30 million US dollars, that led to the discovery of Gravel Creek and the first resource that we did there. So they've been very important to the success of Gravel Creek. Agnico Eagle joined our shareholder roster in 2017, and they currently own about 14% of the company. And Oramet, the refining company of New Jersey, has been a very critical supporter of ours. They've done every financing that we've done since we've been public, they've been part of.
Boy, a lot of support from some very strong shareholders. You all in management own a lot of shares as well. And as I understand it, you've bought your own shares. You didn't just get awarded them.
No, that's correct. When we started as a private company, I put about 300,000 US into the company, private in a private placement. And since then, when we're public, I've been buying shares in the public market to, support the company, but also, but I think, you said it today in your talk that the junior market space has been really beaten up. So there's a lot of opportunity, and we're a better place to look than your own company.
Yeah, exactly. And such a small market cap you have right now that any discovery could really send this stock a running. So
yeah, and we've seen this before. When I was at Meridian and we discovered El Peñon, that company went from about $150 million to ultimately a transaction with Yamana over $3.5 billion about 6 years later. So it happens.
It does. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed it happens with Western Exploration.
My fingers are crossed as well.
Thanks for joining me, Darcy. I'm Jeff Clark at the Metals Investor Forum. Thanks for watching.